doing the table of contents of the business plan is that we also have a conversation with CAL FIRE in the room about CAL FIRE qualification system. So we'll add that, and that's been added to this. And then I do have, may or may not, it's one of those things. There's what we talked about on Tuesday, the revision to the event kind category to reflect if the standard for the international mobilization and foreign incident will be added. That would be something the systems would be asked to do as well. So we'll have a quick conversation on what that means. So so the first thing
here.
Yep.
Or you wanted to be sharing your screen?
Yes.
You can look up there.
I can look. Thank you. All right, everybody. So the first thing that's on our list of the highest importance is, again, please tell us if you know we want to change this order, is the summary resource data. So as you can see, the Irwin team and the extended community is identifying opportunities to provide summarized resource data via integration in the participating systems. So as a user, I need summary resource data indicating provider agencies associated with the incident by capability type. We've got this broken down by initial attack resources and all associated resources. And then we look at it kind of from different applications as well. So as a 209 user, I need incident resources showing at the incident to be integrated in a manner consistent with 209's resource tab so that I can better create the incident resource summary based on an already integrated request and resource data. We get that well. Yep. Then of course, these are the systems we believe are impacted or might have an interest here. ICS 209, Inform. For those of you who don't know, I don't think we have anybody from Inform in the room today, but I think we do online. Beautiful. There could be a different level of lift for these, more again for your knowledge of what's going on in the background. For example, Inform. Can you not hear me? You want to add incident to that list? You're going to capture it for me. Thank you. Inform has identified a business need where they're looking for information. Steve and Julie, if you're on, correct me if I'm saying any of this wrong, or anybody from Inform for that matter. Where they're looking, there's each agency. We're looking at bundling that data for them, initial attack or meeting suppression strategy attainment, which, I think historically the Forest Service have looked at that as contained control kind of thing. But they've given us some parameters to work with, and then we're looking to bundle that and share them. So that may or may not be a lift for the systems. That may be something that other systems could benefit from, but we'll keep you posted on that work. One of the other things that the Irwin team has been looking at, because we know that like 209 is in the process of next gen and development, et cetera. The users keep identifying this as a large need. One of the things that we've talked about being able to do, Mary is I don't know if you guys know this, Mary takes care of Observer. She builds Observer, she does all the enhancements, she does a ton of the work behind Observer. But you know how we have those resource tabs? We've got the incident history tab that shows everything. And then I'm laughing at myself because I'm looking over at some of the Irwin team, like they of course know. But then we go into the resources where we show the requests, we show the experience, et cetera. And then historically, we had a little piece there that was for the governor's report where it gave what 209 had shared back. We're thinking there might be an opportunity there to bundle the 209 needed data. So at least the 209 user could go in and see it in one spot in the interim of us getting it all the way through. So totally open to what your thoughts are. That would be helpful, not helpful.
So I just talked to George on the phone, like we're open, like does not, we got some other competing priorities,
Totally.
other resources. we're trying to make some enhancements to our current application to make it a little bit more user friendly. I mean, we're open to the conversation if Irwin is willing to potentially bundle stuff up and send it over. Yeah, we'd like to be in those discussions, because I'm assuming EI Suite would be in the same boat, so. Cause like a few things we have to, not a few, but a lot, like how we're gonna code for certain things, right? So like,
Well, and I think too, there's an opportunity here for, even if we can't get it all the way there, just to have the data in a spot for the users to find in the interim.
oh, in Irwin server, okay, yeah,
Yeah. So, and then we can continue to have those conversations. And this has been something that we've talked about, Meg and I talk about all the time.
Do it, it's just, we're not in a good place right now.
Understood.
to Do it.
Understood.
So,
So we have added Insinet. We've got EI Suite. I don't think we have anyone on the phone from EI Suite today. Is there anybody else who wants to be part of those conversations? So the conversation in the room is just, we know that the data is not perfect. And where's my dear friend Julie Osterkamp? Because I will never forget when she said, I'm the asterisk. You're my other dear friend, Julie. But there's an asterisk. She's the asterisk lady, right? Where she said, I don't want to always have to be known as the asterisk lady. But
Still there.
Yeah, right, Julie? But we know that there's an asterisk on this data. We know, we're fully aware, and this, you'll see this come up in all of our conversations, that we know we've got resources getting hung up, we've got them making it into Irwin, maybe a request from one of the CAS, but not making it to IROC or vice versa, right? So we know there's information that's not perfect there. Search of excellence, perfection is a challenge. So, but when we think about our millions of requests over the last X amount of years, we've got 1,700 hung up right now. Relatively speaking, that's pretty good.
So I think we would like to be involved. I don't think, I mean, it's gonna affect us on looking data, right? But in that flow of data,
Will be no change, but yes.
yeah, there's still issues like we just.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, happy to include you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Wait to be on meetings.
yeah, it'd be awesome.
Staffing for meetings.
Okay, so thumbs up. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Oh, there's something in there.
Just confirming that what this next strand is interesting.
Okay, and we've got you in there. Rick, thank you.
And so is R&D.
Can I just, you guys are gonna put the data in Irwin Observer is what we're talking about?
We're gonna compile it in a way that's associated with the agency. Okay. So the question is asking if we're gonna put it in Observer. It's already in Observer. Right? The requests are there, all the requests within the system are there. What 209 needs, and I've never want to speak for you, Megan, so just tell me to shut up and you can explain it, but the resource tab is done by agency and by resource capability type and summarized.
Yeah.
So the key there is the summarization. So 10 crews, 40 people. That's the part that we're going to look to. And we'll be using the data, don't mean to point, we'll be using the data that we get from IROC to use that to summarize it. But we're not asking you to summarize.
No, and then be summarized in Irwin Observer.
For now, that's what we're looking at doing,
Okay.
because until we can make that connection. Okay.
So are you guys also gonna do the math for contract resources?
That's the part we don't know, right?
Yeah,
So there's
so-
those, this is that asterisk, these are these assumptions. So what she's asking about, if you couldn't hear, is are we gonna do the math for the contracted resources? Contracted resources are not rostered. So we could have an engine with 2 people, that is their minimum requirement. We could have 3. We could have a crew with 17 instead of 20. So that's where the asterisk data comes in. That's where we expect the human to have to. Nobody's gonna know that.
Well, EI Suite could. Know that.
If there's an active EI Suite,
Yeah, exactly.
100%. And that's, so EI Suite does have, I wish they were on the phone, but they do have that 209 report. And Irwin has been looking at their queries to help to do that, but once EI suite, and that's that conversation, like now, they're reading data in V10, the expectation, their hope is to keep writing it back.
Oh, really?
I'll have to wait and see if they confirm that.
Bill Mills would like to be part of the EIS.
Okay. We'll add you, Bill Mills.
Thank you.
So I kind of,
I was just sorry, I was just having a communication with my team because I can't type and show at the same time.
I think I interrupted the vote.
Okay, yes. Thumbs up, police are, so thumbs up from the community
For you guys doing some work.
for us guys doing this work and continue to work with you.
Yes. No promises that Megan's getting.
No promises.
No promises. I'm not committing to anything today, but
It's-
for you guys, yes, please.
It's a fair one. Okay, wonderful. Documented, added to tracker, moving on. Okay, so this one I don't think we'll have any conversation about. I'm being sarcastic.
Oh,
So moving to is IROC manage workflows and data elements. So what we have listed in the business plan is the Irwin team and extended community are looking to find opportunities to reassess that is IROC managed, right? So during the V9 integration testing, conversations arose around is IROC managed and the need to revisit how each system is applying the concept and whether the updates to the resource specifications are needed. So what we're agreeing to is the conversation, right? Elise, that's why you gave it the quick thumbs up.
No.
Are you being sarcastic? There we go. So as business need, the resource ordering system, as a resource ordering system, I want to be able to process requests in the same way for all inbound integrated capability requests so that I can ensure they're handled appropriately and in accordance with established business rules. Did I capture that well? Yes. Do you guys want to? I can start. Yeah. So
You guys know you're- I know you do, but I don't.
in the integration specifications for resource management and for resource specifications, we have an either or concept in there right now. So some systems are using is IROC managed. Some systems are not using IROC managed. There are two different workflows and you can imagine that that's causing an impact to IROC as to how they have to handle. Right? So the thing of it is, we think that there have been a lot of changes since 2020 when we started having these conversations and systems have maybe made unique tweaks to their system as to what they think is IROC managed is. And IROC has probably made some tweaks to how they handle is IROC managed. And so this is that inconsistency and why we have probably 1,700 resources requests on that.
Thank you.
Not the whole reason, but a contributing factor.
So Kara, just for my clarification, is IROC managed, like, does it change the ADS? Is that what it's
No.
doing?
Kind of.
Not really. I mean,
See, we're all there.
Yeah.
there really isn't ADS
Not on resources.
in resources, especially like with capability requests. What this does is, I think it kind of dates back to, when things were just first getting developed.
I agree.
Nobody even knew how IROC worked, much less, Irwin and capability requests. We had a task with. Children go.
But the two of them.
No,
I think, Ross and Cal Fire CAD had a very tight integration.
Right.
yes.
And so I think there were some, that, their CAD could send things in and Ross would respond in certain ways and, send back responses and so on. And it worked very well. And so I think there was a lot of effort to try to replicate that same functionality. But what that ends up meaning is that with the is IROC managed flag, it's basically, one of the things is, are we also updating a resource status? You know, as they get filled on a request, are we saying, okay, well, okay, now the resource is not available, so your operational status committed or, you know, whatever. So we're kind of trying to, you know, handle a lot of things because their system took an action. We're doing things and updating other Berlin values, maybe. You know, and so things are kind of trying to flow out and back and, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not a really good system because there's no way for us to communicate back to Erwin that, you know, we couldn't complete part of this or
Right.
anything else. It's just, you know, you just end up things out of sync. With Wildcat, the model is IROC managed false. Originally, we had this coded as if system is Wildcat, do this in IROC, if system is CFCAT, do that.
Right.
So we brought in is IROC managed to kind of help make those differentiations in the path.
Right.
You know, as new systems came on, we weren't having to recode who does what. But kind of, you know, so like with the Wildcat is if IROC managed is false, we just totally need. And we're not doing things and sending back other changes. So they're like.
Specifically status
Yeah,
changes,
doing
right?
the request, and we're setting the resource to, you know, add incident or, you know, I can't forget the official terms, but they're handling all the updates. Like they're handling, this is what this record should look like in Erwin. Versus the is IROC managed is like, here's some information. IROC do some things with it and complete the picture.
Yeah. So basically, as new systems are coming on, the recommended workflow is not in agreement, right? Because systems have done work, new systems are bringing on can work. We've learned things since then, and we would like to get to a place. We think we want to get to the place, right? As we've written, that says let's handle them all the same. So IROC is not having to completely handle putting in it needs to be agnostic, right? Having to put in, well, it came from this system, so we're going to do this. Can you imagine doing that? Like FI response is coming on, Fireweb is coming on. We've got all these other systems coming on. We're only going to continue to add, especially and when we start thinking about fire departments, some of the CAL FIRE contracted systems, et cetera. And like Tim and I were talking about last night, that there's already some issues there that we know could be a challenge. To add this inconsistency is probably right with issues.
And I think the other piece is, you know, the idea with Erwin as being a platter. You know, it's not put half-baked food on the platter, have somebody else pick it up
Finish
and
baking it, yeah.
finish the cooking and put the, you know, the rest of it back on. It's, you know, this is what the, you know, that's the request and the resource and stuff on the platter so that we can read in and any other system can read in and have that information. But I don't see it as a system where the two places where we kind of get away from this is the request number from IROC and the fire code. And it's really, you send something through Erwin and expect another system to do something.
Yeah, I was thinking about the relationships too. Might be some of it in there. I'm starting to go away from this platform idea and feel more like, you know, when you go into the hotels and they have the spinny door. Spinny door. So hit me, Tim.
Your concern is the actions that we ask you to do after. build or changing the status is basically where the end is.
Yeah, yeah.
That's where the issue is. Okay. And my premise, the way I always wrapped my head around this is that what we're doing is feeding IROC or feeding everyone the information that a user would feed IROC. And then having IROC do all of its normal business. In my mind, making it simpler, but I can totally get where from the half-baked. I actually can totally get my head wrapped around half-baked.
Yeah.
So,
I think it became very apparent at integration testing with fireweb testing of, here's another CAD coming online doing it one way and stuff wasn't working right. It's like, let's pause here, that IROC's doing things two different ways for CAD systems, and that's not right in a world that we're supposed to be standardized. So let's reevaluate this as IROC managed and get on one page and keep systems doing what they're supposed to be doing the same as other CADs come on, hey, this is our path we go down. Yeah, it's pretty clear. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this morning. I mean, I think there will be some other things that will need to become part of Irwin as we do this, if we're going to continue to support the gotcha I thought this morning was that the UTFs, as you're transferring stuff around, because like right now, we have, I think it's kind of coded that we just sort of interpret things that if because there's, I think you send in a status of UTF. And what center it needs to go to.
we don't send back to center, and I don't think any.
Oh, that's. So
We
you send in a
just send
status of
UTF.
UTF, then IROC needs to send it back to the originating center. And update the status in Irwin of the request back to Penn, so I mean.
Starting
This
to Lisa's expressions.
This conversation alludes to, I think, a larger issue. There's no history per se in Irwin for people to be able to pull things back, because in that very example, and I'll use the example of an incident or a CAD, they send a request to Irwin and they send it to their parent. And they set the selection area as their GAC. The GAC then says, well, I obviously don't have that resource. Can send it to this other unit force, whatever. They UTF it back. Now it's sitting back at the GAC and sitting in that unfilled status instead of a UTF status. GAC UTFs it back to the original host. All it does is show back us as unfilled. And so the CADs have no idea why that's showing up. In our situation, it'll sometimes show up as, okay, here's a new request.
And it should be shown as unfilled in Irwin.
Yeah.
It's either filled, unfilled.
But my point
Reassign,
being is
but
that there should be I would recommend that we add another field that's previous status, so that you can kind of piece a little bit of that history together in order to present your users with the appropriate.
The difference is though, UTF is the action of what you're taking on the request.
Right.
Again, the request status is unfilled, the UTF is, I can't fill this, it's going back to you. The end result of a request, if it's not filled, unfilled, reassigned, is to be canceled UTF or canceled. So it's the difference of what the end result of the request is versus the transaction.
It's action versus status.
Yes.
Well, no, but I'm saying in order to paint the picture to the other systems of how they need to present that in the system
So a
would be
last
to have
transaction.
last transaction. So if in this example, I have that UTF
They want to see the action.
it can
Yeah.
come back to that original.
Everyone
that
needs to
chain.
be tracked.
Yeah.
So I mean, what were those other things you had? You had a squirrel and a drilling too far in?
That's right, the squirrel is off to the left, whole.
We might be going too far for this, for today. I think it's all valid. Mary's been furiously typing down, capturing all the things that you've said and the recommendation, action versus status kind of thing. So I think where we'll pivot is, I guess what the vote will be on, focus calls. My question is always, this focus call happen during the tech talk? Or do we need we're gonna have this 2-hour call, we're gonna land this kind of focus call? Because we all have time for way many more meetings, but at the same token, don't want to have this conversation for the next 6 months, every tech talk, and not quite get to land it, because we only have an hour.
My vote is let's sit down, lock ourselves in a room.
Julie?
A virtual room.
A virtual room. Travel, yeah.
An escape room.
You have to get there.
Get there.
Can't escape until you figure it out.
Alterra's Cab's doing the
That's good.
the neighborhood ordering. Wildcat probably eventually, I'm sure some of the other cab systems will be looking at neighborhood ordering in the future. But it is something we need for the community. Because everybody wants to play in Irash, they want to play in the cab system. So it does seem to be part of the future.
Yeah. So Michael, that works for you too. We'll include you guys. And then I don't think Fireweb's on. I'm sure there's a time zone issue, but we'll make sure to reach out to them. So Phyllis, are you on?
Yeah, yes, I'm here. I've been listening in.
Oh, you're the best. Thank you. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah.
Does this conversation, have you been able to hear the conversation, I guess, first of all?
Yes, I was listening. And yeah, I think I would also support a virtual call to be able to get to that. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
We've got you loud and clear. Yeah, thank you.
I will say, we need to go back to our systems and group steering committees now and truly see what's the priority for this workload. As more stuff gets piled on, more meetings get piled on, and what's the priority of what we're getting worked on, and I'll put both my hats on, systems hats on of. If there's not funding for stuff and time for stuff, do we talk about it now if we're not gonna get to it for a year?
Is it something, so
Is-
are you suggesting we deprioritize this?
I think we have to talk to our people of where stuff fits in. Let's see what all comes out of today. There's not enough time and money in the days to get stuff done now.
So your people, National Center managers,
Yeah.
your group? So I would, yeah. I would only add. What did you say, Rochelle and Steve, yesterday, that one system's decision could have enterprise ramifications.
Oh,
So-
great decision for a project can be disastrous for the enterprise.
It could be disastrous for the enterprise, so we do need to keep that in mind, that there's bigger picture, right, with all of this at play. And that's fine. So we'll leave that as,
And in the
Come back to
enterprise picture of
prioritization.
things, which system is supposed to be the extended ordering system?
but
Where
my
should that
point
work in?
is, EI suite.
Yeah.
If we put this off, we'll suffer. 209 will suffer.
Will they suffer though? I mean, if
They
they're
won't
still
get the
doing it in
data.
IROC,
They
if
won't
they're
get the
doing it in
data.
IROC, they'll get the data.
Not if it's not passing, because we're having, as I recommended, we're having these issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, So
That's
it's-
on the UTM.
so it's, not just the UTF piece. Okay, good. Okay, because I was kind of surprised to hear you say.
No,
I was like,
is
"Ah."
IROC
I was
managed?
too. I was like,
What
no,
should you do? Agree, I agree.
Gone rogue.
No.
Like,
Is IROC managed?
Okay, good.
Thumbs
I was
up.
like, because we definitely don't even have
Yeah.
UTF on this.
Yes, no, that's the news story of
Topic.
UTF, is that the priority to work on now?
Yeah,
I would say
that's
probably
something we'll
Yes.
document as a conversation.
Yeah.
It's not even on the business plan.
Yeah. Is IROC managed?
Okay,
That's future.
you scared the crap out of me. I was like, yes, second.
Yeah, road.
What just happened?
That one's in the DeLorean for the future, not right now.
No, we didn't.
Okay, good. Moving on.
I mean, does it make sense to say that we would be talking about maybe the V10 part, because I know it would be a lift. Say on Cal Fire to be like, you can't use this anymore as of that, but no new systems use it. I mean,
Okay.
It's taken out of the spec of
I
how
do.
the system should.
Mouse will type in these notes.
Yes, yes. Let's establish some rules and not
Thank you.
compound the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other systems may be quoted to it, opportunity to assemble and work through, but kind of going forward was active, not. Right, yeah.
Cause there's a bunch of new cats on the list, right?
There are,
Yeah.
we'll see about how many there actually get to move forward, but yes. But I think it's really wise to put that in the specs. Yeah. Okay, so here's one, we left it up high because it was for V9, a higher prior, it was one of our highest prioritizations, and that was the reintegration of the informed data. So obviously I actually used, some of the same language from V9. And basically the question is, did we meet the objectives set in V9? Are there any things hanging? Are the systems getting what they expected from the changes that we made? Is the, I kind of think this might have to go through the summer so folks can really see, yes, it's actually, we've got the benefit with the juice is worth the squeeze kind of thing. We also have a comment in here about, as a connected system, I want to have access to the fire occurrence data record ID so that I can relate the Irwin record to the final fire report record and inform, and have we actually already solved for that as part of V9? We're not asking, I think the original ask was, oh, the systems will all share both, right? Remember? And do they need to, now that we have that, we do have a relationship with that data? I need to ponder that. And then one of the last thoughts that we had for V9 is if an application can write a data element, create or update to Irwin, that data element can be updated by another application. It will be made available within Irwin. That's happening. It's not in the incident table, but it is happening that's been made available to them. But we do have that I think it's a monitor for this year, but I want to hear from the community. Update operational data with final fire reporting data in accordance with established ADS values. So I do know that some of our systems opted out of the work in V9 until they saw how this year went, right? And if they needed to do the lift to bring in their final fire reporting data, or if thought it might come back into an actual flow based on, we made it through all of our hurdles. The hurdles that we had identified before as far as when does it flip, with getting the information back from Inform now of complete and certified, we now have something tangible that we can key in on to tell systems. So I'm happy to sort of deprioritize this as far as it might not be any work. It's more of a reflection of that. Thoughts? Leftis, I always look to you on this one.
Well, look to my mute button because apparently that's the one I can't find. So overall, I think we're pretty happy with this. I'll say that we had to do some adjustment, and even as recently as 2 weeks ago, we actually had to do some emergency adjustment. But that kind of came out of not having a clear idea of some of the business practices that would go into it. We've been able to adjust with that, and we're showing the data to users now, and I think it's working very well for us. I think there are some things that we would have documented better if we could send it back to our past selves getting ready for this, but overall, I think the process was fairly smooth.
Excellent. Any of the CADs were, do you have any thoughts, Michael? Not really impacted? Okay. So I'll probably move that down. I'll probably move that down as a reflection in the fall, something that we'll sort of reevaluate. If there's any further action, obviously, probably that would have to get pushed if we look at it in the fall to the 11th. If we need to make a change that late, but I think it would be premature to think we know we need a change when we don't know how this summer is going. So I should say fire season, how this fire season.
That's a good question, Kara. I guess I'm remembering something about a flag of. That not part of this topic, like a flag for certified or. Is that something else?
So, do you want to explain it, how we handle it?
Yeah, there's a flag for status, an FFR status that Inform puts in. It's like incomplete, complete,
Certified.
and that's on the incident.
That is on that. So that was the big change we made during integration testing, because before it was in its own, I know table's not the right word, David, but it was in its own little place, right? It was Candace spoke to Irwin being passive and Irwin not taking any action. But the system said we really need to know if it's certified, complete, or incomplete. Certified and complete meaning truly the ADS lies with, I mean, it's the way I look at it. It's not actually implemented that way, but the true ADS lies with Inform because that record is certified or complete. Because we have state records that'll never be certified, right? County records that'll never be certified. But that's what the systems can key in on. Oh, this is the final data. Okay, this is what the name of it is. This is, if there's been an update, we've done a lot of work with our dashboards in the background to be able to show you when those changes happened, especially for our incident business, and they have concerns, et cetera, behind that. So we were sort of supporting some of those gaps in our mind with those dashboards. We can at least find the data, find the information. So I think that was it, at least. Yeah.
And-
Oh, go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, so I will maybe say that that flag has helped us, and that's what's let us actually implement. I still think it's an imperfect placeholder for what we're really looking for, which is to, like, by element, what things were changed by a user in Inform, because then we would see those as like individual elements that have better data in Inform. And looking for the status of complete or certified for when we use those values instead was our best fallback to it. If there were a possibility of something that put kind of like by element has a user, consciously made a change in Inform, as opposed to just this is the value that Inform copied over from Irwin, that would be even better for us. So, if we're making a wish list, hey.
I love the wish list because you can imagine that I'm literally sitting on my hands right now because I think the work that we've done here, I think that we now have this is complete, this is done, it's done. This is where the record that I think there's an avenue to bring this back in the incident table so that he could know that it's there, but we could also look into this is what the change was. I'm looking at data. Something that we, Irwin, can do to support the community. So keep your wish list coming because that's super helpful. I suspect that would be helpful for everyone else.
I couldn't barely hear you. Say that again? Actually, I couldn't hear you. I heard you.
Yeah. So listening to what Rick said, what I was saying was, I do think that we're at that precipice where we as a community are back to the same page, that if we get a certified complete from Irwin, which right now we bring that into the incident table as firefighter report status, I believe is what it's called, FFR status. We bring that in. So now the systems know that. But what Rick was saying is it'd be really great if he could get some information on which specific data element the change was made. We could bring back into the table, the incident table. I always say we could because these guys are magic and I think they can do anything. But with these really specified requirements coming out of our experience over the last 3 years is helping us to get to that point. I think we could almost go back to an ADS is what I'm trying to say. A certified ADS, final fire report has the ADS at the end. This is what the information is. You can still handle it however you want it. So you as a CAD could still say, yes, I want to bring this information from them. Yes, I want to let my user know that it's been finalized. Definitely different for county, right? As a state as opposed to a federal system as to how you want to handle it, but you'd be presented with that information in a way that like IROC doesn't have to do a ton of work to find out what those changes are. EGP or EI suite or whomever that's looking for that information. The inconsistencies in the data.
So I don't want to waste a whole bunch of time here, but my question would be, and I am drawing a blank on the part of me, but you and I looked at it.
Yeah.
Mariposa County a couple years ago. Somebody went in and did an informed report on the state incidents. So at the end of the day, if they say, oh, well, the fire type, our cat put it in as a wildland fire. And the informed user says, yeah, it was caused by a vehicle fire. What's going to be the incident type that Irwin's going to show?
Well, yeah.
That's part of that is the tip of the iceberg of concerns of writing back to that system.
Hence you like it the way it is pulled out.
I'm sorry.
Hence you like it the way it is pulled out where you can track that. As opposed to what he just said, right? Was we were able to track what the informed user change made. Change would be made, but to do, yes, they have, it was 1/10 of an acre in another federal agency. I mean, it was a very small amount that it burned onto, and the one that we're referring to. Copy. Message heard.
No focus called my teacher. But yes.
You lucky one. Okay. Reflection. Revisit after the fire season.
Yeah, I think we should see what we learn.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I got a thumbs up from Lori. When we get a thumbs up from Lori, I know we're on the right path.
And you realize you can throw me on any group you think it would be valuable to have my input.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, moving on. I'm looking at the time. Incident relationships. So this is another one that I say we showed up with integration testing, and we had a pretty good majority of folks that were able to implement the relationships. There are still some questions, Rochelle, on where these relationships should be built. But some very exciting things happening with escape prescribed fire, with being able to resolve conflicts where the triggers aren't met, and building those kinds of relationships. And of course, adding of the post-fire relationships were all in V9. Some of those other ones were in V8, but we had some refining in V9. So as a user, I need integrated systems to contain a workflow for the implementation of the NWCG event category revision, inclusive of the associated business rules. And that's the final step. So what we have listed here is, who creates the relationship, and this is part of that relationship standard, which I don't really, is it done?
I don't know, I'd have to check.
Yeah, I don't know either. Okay, so providing response to, which is the child system, the complex, the CADS and 209, still, I think, have some challenges that Megan and I dealt with one a couple weeks ago, where they built it in the CAD, but when they started, they needed to add another incident that was in a different dispatch center. So then they had to add that in the 209. And so there's some challenges that we ran into, and then the merge. I lined out the merge just because we don't know where we are with that. And so to ask people to do that work, we're waiting until the task group provides some direction. And some of my colleagues have said we've got to stop doing these things when we anticipate completion and it's not there. So we're asking we're not asking anyone to do any work on those merge. And I think that's one of the reasons why I highlighted it here until that's been accomplished. Prescribed fire, we've got them in the CADs. Informed fuels, I think Brandon stepped out. See him. So we know that should be the system of record for prescribed fires. We do build, it's been pretty eloquent the way I can speak towards Wildcat, the way Wildcat is handling that and building that relationship, with the escape prescribed fire as a wildfire second record. The way that's being handled. But should the prescribed fire be seen from Inform via Irwin into the CAD right now, it's being built in the CAD, the prescribed fire, and then we add the relationship also in the CAD for the escaped.
Yeah, so I think one point of clarity is it's not Inform.
Should be fuels.
If
It's-
PERS.
If PERS.
If hers. Yeah, I can't say, sorry. Thank you.
Because yeah, it's
Yep,
just not
copy that.
Inform.
Words
Um,
matter.
And the other aspect is that if PERS is only DOI, so we would have to, I don't know if we've had any conversation with the fax team or with NASF on what they've been building out. So those are probably some conversations that we need to have as to how their fuels treatment reporting capabilities may be able to provide that information or not, or be able to link back to that record.
Right now, they're starting the CADs, just so you know, for everyone's awareness. They're starting in the CADs and the relationships being built.
I think that's probably the right place to do that. For now.
And then the post fire, those pretty fun. I've been having a lot of fun testing those, so we'll wait and see what those look like when folks start to build them. But I think it's super exciting, and I know this was a very high up ask to be able to reflect this and the prescribed escape fire. So we think those are done. I said Inform Fuels next, and I will change that language too.
Yeah.
So in my mind, this can drop as far as priorities go. Not a lot of work here, just a reflection that it's done.
Yeah.
So we will go ahead and take care of that. Beautiful. All right, so I feel like we've already talked about ICS 209 resource integration. It's the differences. Yeah, good. No promises moving forward.
Like I said, it won't be a stinker.
Nope, you're good. So moving on to the integration suppression strategy, continuing the implementation in V9 and V10. Where we were, and Mary was helping to sort of remind me, right, that we weren't able to completely test that in V9.
So we were reading them incorrectly. We need to in some safeguards where people can't touch that when it's coming in from witness.
Yep.
So there's been some consternation on how to do that
Okay.
correctly.
Okay, so really
So-
establishing that the WFDS is the ADS.
Yes, yep.
And not allowing that enter those, just for those particular
Yeah,
values.
so we were reading it in, now we just have to figure out how to prevent the user.
Yeah, monkey, yeah. And then, Rick, are we still looking at January 25-ish for next gen?
For production launch, somewhere around there. If we get really smooth water between now and then, it could be a little earlier. I'm not one to pin all my hopes on smooth water, especially considering history, but that's a pretty good mark for somewhere around there. We've got training coming online in the next couple of months here.
Okay, very good. So I guess I'll ask, it's really just those two, 209 and WFDS, thumbs up,
Yes, thumbs up.
thumbs up. You got it on there. I see the
Yeah.
thumbs up, thanks, Rick. Okay, looking for Keith Smith.
He had a call this morning, 9, so,
What's that?
yeah.
The long one. So I guess I'm gonna go into it unless you think I should skip it and come back.
Skip it and come back
Okay.
when Keith is here. 'Cause he's
You'll have
really
to
the.
re-explain it.
This is the endorsement. So I resent it out to IROC because it's a primary concern for IROC. Vetted relative, I'm not sure. Yeah, thank you. And then of course, the asks, the language, clearly there had been some misunderstandings for a long time. And as Keith said, he's been trying to get this done for 20 years. And so if this is one of those things that the request from one group and the downstream implications are. higher lift at the other end.
We'll wait, please.
So we'll wait till he gets back, but I did change the language, and like I said, I think I sent it out the day after. So I haven't updated on what the ask really was, because there was some confusion on the ask, so. All right, this is another good one. Lori, get ready. So, update dispatch center ID. This has been something that has been for the community that's obviously very dispatch specific. And basically what we're talking about here is transferring an incident record. Irwin does not prevent any system from updating a dispatch center ID. We had looked at this way back in the day with Rochelle before even Chuck was on the program with the POO dispatch center versus the dispatch center ID. And in our minds, we were thinking that POO dispatch center is exactly that. This is who has the jurisdictional management responsibility within that center. But we know that there are times we need to update the dispatch center ID for whatever reason. I'll throw out one of my favorites, right? There's a team in northern Utah, they're managing 3 fires. We get a new large fire in Uinta Basin, and management decision is to manage all of those fires in northern Utah. Right, so we have ways now, especially since COVID, where we can handle that. But there have been asks before to transfer the dispatch center who's ordering the single ordering port for those resources. Another one that comes up is there's no radio combo here. No radio combo here, so the neighboring center needs to take over that fire. Maybe we should redraw the boundaries, but that's not really for me to say. But so there's some reasons. There are Gina's favorite where we have an incident. Go ahead, Gina, like Oregon.
World War III in Southern Oregon, but last year there was a fire on the forest. I get a call after hours, and I'm heading to trivia. But I'm on the phone with these people, and I'm on the phone with these people, and they're telling me it's an ODF fire. I'm like, is it on an ODF land? They said yes. They lied to me. But so I gave them the direction to float, cancel the Forest Service fire and create the ODF fire. Well, fast forward, I end up showing up down there in a month or two, and the IBA comes down around the corner and she goes, I am really pissed at you. And I'm like, why? She goes, you made a mess. And so she has this huge mess because it was strictly on Forest Service land, and those people lied to me. And so they created an ODF fire. ODF was going to manage the fire, but they don't want them to have access. Trust me, it is like oil and water, and they don't want them to give access to Eugene. They want them to do all the stuff out of their system. So transferring, and this happens all the time. So we get that data. So these bad incidents are created looking like they're state fires when they're not state fires. They're actually Forest Service fires. So it happens all the time.
I think the more common one too is it's an initial attack. We think it's one, or one of my other, we have 24-hour dispatch centers and we have non-24-hour dispatch center. They have an agreement to start an incident for that other agency within their system, and now it's locked in and they need to be able to transfer it. We think this is where the point of origin is today, and 24 hours later we find out it's somewhere else. So big picture,
there's another business case or it's being talked about is the literal transition of a fire from one jurisdiction to another. It starts here, moves here, moves here.
Yeah, I thought we did see that one. Yeah. Where said it burned onto another.
It's California.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Where that one moved through
3 different dispatch.
3,
And back.
4, 4 and back again.
So here's, I don't want to, I can find myself drilling down into this one really, because this has been on our list of to-dos. Well, since IROC came on, right? Because before, when we were just sharing header data and not resource data, it didn't matter. We could do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. But once we are truly connected now, we have to figure out how to handle this. So there's all these pieces that we need to unpack, like selection area, resources, if it was to move to another center, all of those refresh to the other center that here is now their neighbors, here's. So, my recommendation on this one this is tough, because I was saying, there's a couple of these that are a massive lift and conversation, but the community's been asking it for a really long time. So,
I'll say, I'm not afraid. I agree, it is needed. The National Coordination Center's been at it for a few years now, but there's a lot to unpack with resource integration.
Yeah.
Right now you can transfer incidents within IROC that are non-CAD ADS, so technically right now. But with resource integration, that we have to unpack with incident business, National Coordination Center managers, the CADs. If their CAD requests, do those resources get transferred to the new center? There's that aspect of it. If they're local IA resources, do they go to that new center? If you have contract resources, do those go to the new center?
This is gonna be an in-depth conversation.
Yeah, that's a-
Yeah.
it's been,
So.
yeah.
so definitely.
Convos need to start. There's a lot
Start
to unpack.
convos,
Yeah.
but not.
How about priority?
implement.
Where do you guys want it in the priority?
This is high.
It's high.
This is
The
high.
community needs it.
Yeah, and I have it as high. So that's where we have it so far. I was almost thinking we could switch it with one of those. Anyway,
But
we'll
there's
leave
a
it.
lot to unpack there,
Because
the whole big picture with resources. Resources on repos.
Yeah.
And then let's go.
And then
Carol, I do have a question. Doesn't SIT 209 come, like if they're filling out their SIT 209, doesn't that also like we? Is it
I think
something?
it might automatically happen. But I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, so this SID doesn't matter because it's still manual.
It doesn't matter,
The
but
209 matters.
The 209s.
And, it depends. Like if you're in an area like California where it's really locked down, like.
Yeah.
It is quite different. And then, yes, we can give people access and go in and do whatever they want kind of thing. Neighbor, new center. But I think the big picture is this is the reporting piece. It's not just resources. The reporting piece is super important because the point of origin dispatch center, if it's proved to be that is the point of origin, in your example, Lori, like it burned on 3 other dispatch centers, and so it made sense for them to be the hiring point of resources. But the reporting, this is my inform, this is my, if it started in that jurisdiction and the other one's add on to it, et cetera. And then the 209 piece,
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please include that.
Yep.
I don't know if it happens automatically
I
or.
think that one fire was at least 5 different jurisdictions.
yeah, so we need to add 209 to that one. Thumbs up for combos?
Yeah,
Those
so-
combos.
yeah, so somebody's might be.
I'm gonna vote for Wildcat too. I'm sure you guys.
Yes,
as well.
yes. Sorry,
So,
Cat in.
yeah.
Yeah, both yes.
I think I'm looking, it's 11:05. Want to take a break? You want to push through to lunch?
Maybe do an early lunch and come back, so everybody can wait for early lunch. I think we're different.
It might be
We
a
can
better
do that.
time. Too early for lunch?
We just take like 5 minutes.
Let's take 5 minutes. I turn down the volume. Let's take 5 minutes. I'm just gonna say it.
Just use the mic.
I know. Okay, everybody, are we ready? Let's get back to it.
Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, you're welcome. Dawn.
Where are we at? Are we on medium now?
We are, but we had one question from the Irwin team during the break as far as what our actual expectations were for the dispatch center ID update. And, what I'm understanding is we're gonna start focus calls and really focus business calls so that we can iron out the business so that we can give the dev folks what they need to do. In a perfect world, we're looking on V10. It's a high priority, but knowing that it might not, or you wanna already say V11? Very
Yeah, put V11 with the question mark on there. I think there's gonna be a lot.
It feels beyond.
Well, and I just have to say, you know, we did start talking about this. We have a lot of documentation from over 5 years ago on this. Some of the downstream effects, and Julie points out, it's different now with the CADs. It's different now with the CADs online. I do know that we, with our Wildcat hat on, have had conversations with Brian Boer and on how he's been thinking about this for quite a while and has really excited about leaning in on these conversations as well. So I just don't want to lock ourselves out of E10. That if we start having these conversations and we say, I just, every year we get to look at some center managers and say, yeah, we haven't done it yet. We haven't done it yet.
I'm okay with reassessing after we have a few conversations. Yeah.
Perfect.
I support the plan. And I'll support it with the, as IROC center managers.
Okay. And again, technically, IROC can transfer non-CAD ADS.
We do all the time. We still do.
It's the CAD incident.
Everything that comes in from Inform Inspector, for example, we were having to transfer until we figured out a layer issue with one of the 4 tiers down in the southwest. So we do know that capability is there, and we do know that the main part of the challenge of the CAD's being able to read it in FI response. You guys can already see it, right? You can already read that in. So it depends on the CAD in which one we're talking to. I think Hellfire, Alternative, you can see it.
We can get spread in, but it's an external. Even if the center would theoretically own it,
Okay.
they can't do anything for the incident.
Okay. FI response, this is something that we see in your neck of the woods a lot. Do you see the Wildcat incident or the neighboring CAD incident, I guess I'll say, as well as your own? And do you understand what we're talking about as far as being able to update and transfer, say, from one of the protective associations to another interagency center neighbor?
Did you mean Fireweb?
Yeah, what did I say?
Fire.
Oh, sorry, I meant to say Fireweb. Sorry. So, yeah, that's for you, Phyllis.
Sorry, could you repeat that? I had some.
You're good. So we were closing this concept on us updating the dispatch center ID, and we do know we see this in sort of your neck of the woods where we've got protective associations and an interagency center, neighboring center where we've had a need, an identified business need to be able to transfer the record from one to the other. And I'm just asking about your system's capabilities right now. If you can see, and I use that with air quotes, the other incident from, say, maybe another CAD within your system, or do you understand the lift that we're talking about, and obviously want to include you in those calls?
So at the moment, we do not have the capability to see from other cards, but it's actually something we're working on. So we definitely want to be included in the conversation. But it's something we'll work on to be able to actually even fill other cards if they ask from our neighboring systems or something like that.
Okay. And some of how we've been solving this in the interim is with the OR, with the capability, with the relationship capability as well. But there is the true time where we need to actually pass this record from one to the next, update the dispatch center ID, etc. So we do have listed the CADs, IROC. There are certain incident rewrite systems, and you're looking at 209 on that. And I don't know if Inform cares. I listed you, but I wasn't sure if it's doesn't matter. You're more interested in protection and jurisdiction, right? We can do a follow-up with guys. Okay, so, and then the final thing that we said is starting conversations, specifically the business conversations, to understand the business need so that we can go forward with the developers after. We didn't want to box ourselves in on this one, we wanted to leave V10 on the table, but that we would come back together and after some of the conversations start and we really understand the lift, if it needs to go to the 11. Okay, moving on. Frequencies. So I've got here again, V10, V11 frequencies Irwin has developed the frequency API in V8. And that's been up and working and working with CAL FIRE and the frequencies associated with CAL FIRE. Here again, there's some dependencies, right? So I've listed those out. Irwin will continue discovery for creation of a mechanism to associate incident frequencies with incidents in Irwin for initial attack and extended attack. One of our dependencies, the edge connection for frequencies. Our business need that we articulated there as an integration system. I want to be able to pull frequency data from edge or have edge send frequency data. And that's probably something that we want to iron out. Is it a pull or is it a send? Frequency data to the integration so that we have the most updated data to share with the connected systems. Edge serves as the authoritative source for the reference data set for frequencies, as well as for potential validation of frequencies, the data element standard. We talked here again about the initial attack as a business need. As a resource ordering system, I want to be able to send frequencies, or really a CAD. I want to be able to send frequency information so that both dispatchers and users have the same accurate information during initial attack. Talk about associated on the resource order. One of the things that came up in conversations during this week is how critical there are some workflows, especially in California, where there is an order. A1 needs to be the air attack. A2 needs to be, or
Having fun discussion.
yeah. So,
A2 has to be, there's a set order with frequency, just like there's aircraft.
yeah. So part of having a frequency catalog and pulling these away from aircraft would actually be an identified benefit to having those come that way. So we've listed some milestones, frequency availability, or frequency of updates and available of services, proposed maintenance cycle, develop a frequency catalog, develop workflows for the CDO and the agency frequency managers to add to Edge. That's complete. We don't have it in Edge, but we've developed the workflow and developed the workflow and loose to charge for systems to access the data set from Irwin. That's part of the specs that it's already in there. Yes.
But Julie alludes. Isn't the end state for part of this to be able to, okay, I have a frequency of request that needs to go to Connecticut and have them be able to fill in their system, have it propagate back, fill requests in IRON through Irwin and all that stuff, make it a holistic approach. Is that not the end goal there?
It's not the end only goal, but it is one of the accomplishments that we want to have out of it. One of the big ones is for initial attack, for what's in the CAD to be populated in the header data of the resource order.
And the need for it.
And the need board, exactly.
That was gonna be some of the specs that I was gonna ask about, which systems are doing what. So header data for the IA frequency, not creating requests for it. Correct.
We've been talking about it, right? So
That's some of the specs.
that's some of the specs we've gone back and forth as if it's a resource on a request. We don't usually put them on request. It's not been part of our workflow. We wouldn't have to do anything as a dispatcher. It would automatically happen. But what the real meat of what we want is it in the header data. We, the community.
Header data now within the CAD system and IROC. And then the cell functionality, people ordering the air to grounds, takeoff landing deck, all that stuff that goes to the
Yes. You're the normal system, but I will say, so this is the work that's been going on with Lauren and Kim Albrecht, and on occasion Cal Fire we've been having these meetings. And depending on what our agenda, they're only half-hour meetings on Thursdays, they're really quick, we get through, we get our work done and we move on. But so those workflows have been the key piece. So there's a workflow for the federal agency frequency managers, which are the IA frequencies, right? There is a workflow for Cal Fire headquarters. There's a workflow, just because Cal Fire is a little bit different, for their local to have that in, and that's what's already in Edge is your local frequencies. And what am I missing? And the CDO and the workflow for the CDO. So that's the part of getting the frequencies into the inventory. And then, for example, IROC would have access if somebody created a request, sent it to Nick D via our already established workflows. The inventory would be there for Nick D to select and fill with that inventory that's in IROC magically. Which
There's
I've
a
been looking
lot
at
more
it.
business rules that need to apply to it, like, okay, I have the fire right now that I know is going extended. I'm going to need new frequencies for tomorrow, but I don't want them to populate until tomorrow.
So what we've included is, expired on, right? Yeah.
That's really an ordering process, though. That shouldn't change.
No, but the thing that's changing is the fact that the effective date.
Yeah, it would just be
That's-
access.
So, and we've. Have a list that we've worked through. You were gonna say something, Elise?
Is it all built in Edge already, or are there still, I'm thinking we did the Cal Fire frequencies potentially?
Cal Fire frequencies already live in Irwin. They have done, when Lauren's been working on that, tell me if you want to speak into the microphone.
There is inventory of frequencies in Edge based on individual geographic area responses to the data call. With that.
And the CDO stuff.
Yeah, with that, some of the responses have issues that I'm not going to be able to address because I am not a radio person. I do a lot of things, but that's not one of them. And so they're gonna, some discrepancies are gonna need to be identified and cleaned up by the area data.
The agency.
Yeah, the agency one.
Manager. So the idea is that it would have to be dumped with all this work. So that's why we gathered as much as we can.
Yep.
Then as far as the managing the data and the cycle from which they're gonna update it, 30 days from when it's been published, all that kind of stuff is written into what we have. But what John brought up the other day is he's working with Microsoft for the user interface. If I understood you right, for that workflow, for that user to go in and make.
Top quadrant.
Oh, I think it's Microsoft. I know, I was like, that's so weird that you would go to Microsoft.
Did you say dog washer?
Top quadrant. I'm working with a dog washer.
So those are all the things that are happening in the background, and then to your point, there are these things that we'll need to flesh out. The workflow, the ordering should really be no change.
Right.
What's gonna be a change is this effective date and time, because it's exactly what Tim said. Sometimes I order it, I get it filled, but I'm not using it until the next morning. I want my current aircraft to continue to use what they're using right now. So as far as updating to the me board, to the header data, et cetera, that's that key that we need to make sure, and that's something new. That's something that we haven't done before. And then, of course, the frequency catalog. And that's, you own frequency catalog. In essence.
So we had talked yesterday to prepare for today. And we talked about
what we could potentially do like this year, and I'm saying potentially, maybe try to get the frequency catalog created. But not be able to move the frequencies for retail.
And so, which I think that makes sense to me. And we do kind of looking at it, right? So, and even some of our frequency meetings, what is this gonna look like? And pulling anything that's frequency and putting it over on its own, just to a new catalog. It's not that easy, right? There's more that needs to happen behind that. But we have a sense of what they would contain. The work to make it happen is the work that you're doing.
Yeah, when it becomes the F catalog, are we inactivating and validating, or inactivating all the current frequencies that are in IROC, Irwin, and create brand new stuff tied to what's in Irwin Edge, or just, it's now no longer an A and now it's an F? I mean, the work there, scripting, what we need to do there, I mean, that's baby steps, get that in place first.
Yeah.
And then move on with the integration side of it and additional fields and.
Then you already have backlogs.
And the F catalog side of it, since it's a new catalog, would make sense to do it a calendar year, not in end of January or March. Have it a clean data cut going forward for historical purposes.
Which even if we said B10, it would be until January of 25, because if we do it B11, it's January of 26, right?
Julie, has that been approved, the catalog?
It's in the- Yeah.
Elizabeth, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just a question on how this ties into, because I know there was the relationship of frequencies to incidents. Is that a part of, but there's also billing frequency as a catalog as a request. If you bill it, if I request a frequency and bill it, does that then create the incident frequency relationship, or is that not even a thing that is going to be?
Good, but are we going down the road?
Yeah.
There you go, Mary.
There's two different ways.
No,
that
there
these-
100% are, and
that
that's
those can be used, and I'm just kind of curious if this is a kind of bring those together, or if that's a.
Mary asks this question to me all the time. So I think it's a valid question, and I think that that's something I guess I would recommend the duration of this call to a tech talk. That we can unpack it and go down that rabbit hole. Because I can see the pros and cons to both, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll just point out the rabbit hole and we can go explore it.
Yeah.
So a good question came from the back, wouldn't it, if we have duplicates in the system, even if we, because it's the same number?
No. So what we've done is we've worked through with the CDO on, like, currently they've got A, B, C, D, so it's not a duplicate, so it is unique. They've got, even if it's, my favorite example is National Flight Follow. It's always whatever, 110.9, right? That's the tone. 168.65, looking at the, something like that. And then 110.9, right? As far as the tone goes for everyone. But the instance for Northern Utah would be unique, right? By the GUID that's actually associated with them, because when we're looking at the standard, there's all those pieces to the standard that added that as to uniqueness. The stuff from the CDO, which they currently have in the IROC database, where they have A, B, C, D, E, you name it, where they've been doing some uniqueness. We've been working with Kim to figure out a way to make those unique and not be the same. Yeah, Rick. Did I miss something there, Lauren?
I don't think so. Like with National Flight Following, it's also associated with the center.
As I'm saying, it's that standard.
So that's kind of the standalone one rather than the one that you'd be signing. But even when they've assigned something in Oregon and they're going to assign something down in Albuquerque, that's where the instance A, instance B has been coming in as far as from their your catalog that you're using to fill the requests?
So the standard was approved a year and a half ago, I want to say. BJ and Gabriella worked pretty hard on that one together. But that was part of the uniqueness, Gina, with those standards and pulling up. And that's why the dispatch center was a required piece to the standard.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what's the vote here?
So what are we voting on? I guess, to be clear. Box or?
Do we need a vote per bullet or that, because that's a very lengthy.
It's a long one. It's a long one just because there's a lot of work in progress on this one. And then I, just sort of bringing everyone to the table. So I would actually think of this one as very similar. That's why we have V10 or V11 on there. So I think what Julie suggested, right, was this sort of phase. Let's start with V10 with the catalog.
Bringing the frequency catalog to life.
Yep, bringing the frequency catalog to life, all of those business conversations starting. We don't want to push them off just because then we'll find ourselves in the same place for V11. So solidifying the business requirements behind it and our expectation, the expired on date and time, effective date and time, and however we want to term that. And I think we've been really lucky that CAL FIRE's been doing this for a while, so they've identified some things, right, that had to be clarified. The API is already stood up in Irwin, specs already written in Irwin. We can use those as a reference as well. But actual implementation, are we thinking possibly this is that January piece, right, where you want to do it at the new year? That gives us
January 26th, are you talking about?
well, that would be V10. January 26th would be part of V10. Because V10 is March 25. Just because we go live with it, think about it. We doesn't have to do it. We don't have to make the change until the January of.
So the Irwin
26.
piece has to be in place,
Done.
but we don't go live.
Yes, thank you.
Because we want to. So, yeah, are you talking January 2025? Well, they would have it coded, but we could do it whenever.
But you want to do it in January.
Right, so we could do it in January of 2026.
Yeah, you could do. Yeah, because I mean, we're not talking 25 now because we're already V9. So for V10, it would be by January 26th. That gives us some time. Look at us 2 years out. You have a thought?
I was gonna say, should I just,
Yeah.
I think January 26th makes sense to actually start using them. And then for B10, if we can get the requirements down of like, okay, resource kind, frequency will exist, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe in production, there aren't any of them, right? So that maybe have those set up in the lower environments, have things tested, have the ability to build out those things for you guys.
Yeah.
So, yes,
Yeah.
I'm saying yes.
I'm
That
saying
makes
yes
sense.
too. I'm saying yes too. Here's Lori where we need you. Where we need you is with the national center managers to get this inventory done. So we're missing a couple of gaps. I think part of the issue is we had conversations with the agency frequency managers. Not sure it really
I'll
got.
get with Lauren and get the gaps we're missing. and
Yeah.
I'll take it back to the National Center Manager.
Yep.
Because I also think we have to do some updates because there were some recent CEO
Yeah.
changes to define frequencies.
Yep.
And
We need to make sure those get put in.
let's you and I talk offline and I will
Yeah.
tell you the specific issues of each gap that you can maybe go one-on-one.
We're
with the parties.
got that meeting coming up, so.
And then I think the other thing too is if we could get Sean to make sure he makes mention and y'all make mention to your fire directors that this is going on, because, sometimes she got some pushback, right?
Oh, I got tons of pushback.
What is happening? So this is Rochelle, this is an approved thing. And remember having this conversation in San Diego, right? That, this is something we're gonna move forward with. We have the support. This is, got the CUI, mythical or real accounted for. Got all of this taken care of. And I think we're finally on the same page nationally with the agency and frequency agency administrators. That's what's so critical though, that we can get them in there so they can see. The other piece of this is when they want to manage and edit, maintain the data. Right?
Do we need to do something like do we need to do a
Letter.
DMC memo, or do we want to do a memo through the NWCG executive board?
You tell me. I think both of those are good ideas because that's the pushback, right?
I mean, so NWCG just issued, the Fire Environment Committee and Fire Weather Subcommittee just issued a memo through the NWCG executive board, looking to stop using the Haynes Index and, so I think that probably is a way, like, if they can do a memo like that, then we could probably go to the executive board and have them do a memo that, yeah, this is what we're trying to do with frequencies and kind of give it a formal,
A pretzel, something that has some teeth behind it. So that would be helpful. So those are
Okay.
two taskings, I think, that come out of that one. And we're good on the time frame. What we're talking
For now.
for now.
Yeah.
So thumbs up. Voting. Thank you. All right, moving past frequencies, which took a bunch of room. You can see our coordination there. Rochelle, coordination with IROC, the CADS, Irwin, Edge, the DMO team, CDO and agency frequency managers, and then post office. Oh yeah, we're pulling that off. I've actually run that by. There's some conflict of meetings there, so I'll take that off my plan. And it wasn't really a plan, it was just a thought I had as I was typing. But okay, let's move on to the CRID, Irwin CRID data element to resource experience. IROC says no. This is an ask. This is a very specific lift to IROC, IQS, and IQCS business need as a resource ordering system. I want the Irwin CRD to be included in the experience table to facilitate related experience with the capability request it originated from. Is this a big lift?
No, I don't think it's a big lift either. For us, it's just, I mean, it would be some, since we're the system that generates the experience, so. And we would prefer to be able to send that CRID that generated the experience. Because currently the only relationship is the CID and the incident, and truly a resource could be on an incident device.
Yes.
Are two separate assignments. So we just kind of want to be able to get to that level of this record associated with this capability.
Good data, like if rosters get unfilled, a CRID was created and the resource name might have been there. But now it's a invalid request in the experience records. There's no way to say that was invalid. So it helps tie the invalid records to.
Okay, Kara, yes, Michael has a
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Michael.
So IQTS, we're obviously in support of it. But because we're in the middle of our refresh, it doesn't look like we're not able to fully commit to make this happen on our system. However, if things go well, then we would like to work on it right away, but we just can't make that promise that we can actually make it happen for version 10. Version 11, of course, I don't have a problem with that, but version 10 is going to be really tough for us. So just want to put that.
Just not doing. Can you choose not to read it?
Yeah.
Just.
It would
be there.
Sending it to you. You would just choose not to read it and then it would be something. So I don't even think.
Right.
Yeah, okay, cool. Mary,
Yeah, that's,
can you guys hear?
oh, it wasn't on, sorry. Yeah, I think we put IQS and IQCS on here because we recognize that is, a table change. I don't know exactly how systems are constructed. Maybe that is an issue, maybe it's not. Sounds like it, for the most part, we think should just be choose not to read it in, shouldn't be an issue, but just putting out there for awareness that is a change to a table that those systems care about. And then, yeah, as far as Berwyn, I think that's a pretty small lift for us. I think the one thing I'll just mention is just thinking about, we already have Berwyn ID on there, and then is that, you know, Berwyn ID, Berwyn CRID, are we getting redundant? Are we, just as a thought throwing out there, don't want to talk about it necessarily, but just throwing it there. Exactly. So, yeah, I don't think we have a whole lot more to say about that.
Thumbs up. Beautiful.
I know Keith isn't in the room.
Is this for IROC only? Wildcat doesn't
Actually, two things, right?
You need to have two.
We're kind of like reacting this.
So, okay, the integrated state financial code phase 2, I'm reluctant to have that conversation without Keith Smith as well, but I will say.
Go with override.
Oh, sorry, I skipped one thing on there. Something came up on my screen. There you go. So the capability request fill with override workflow refinements. Not applicable for right now.
Session at Center Manager's meeting at CDA 2 weeks. Going away.
Yeah.
You want it to go away?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that,
It's
Yes.
gonna be discussion. It's a topic item for that meeting right before CNET with the Center, National Center
Yeah.
Manager. So
yeah,
I don't think
not
it-
applicable, it's thumbs down.
not applicable there.
yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah, well, I guess the only part that was applicable is we have bad data, because we were not seeing any of that. And it came up during integration testing, so
It's bad data.
I could wipe it off the plan altogether, knowing that it's gonna happen. And
Well, we'll know 2 weeks.
we'll know in 2 weeks, okay. So now we can move on to the integrated state financial code phase 2, and what I started to say was I was a little reluctant to have this conversation. Is BJ on?
He was, yeah.
Okay, so, BJ and some of the other state representatives came to us with the state
I'm on.
financial code. Oh, yeah, thanks, BJ. So you came to us last year with this request. We're integrating the state financial code. I do know, I think Wildcat's latest release will now share it. I was seeing them being shared in test NOAT, and so they should be in production. So you should start seeing those as we move forward. And this wasn't really, I don't think, a part of your original request, right, BJ? That as a user and in an integrated system, I want to be able to read and update the state financial codes for instance, so that my state financial data is in sync and available to other integrated systems. That was it. The second piece is we need to explore the one-to-many relationships associated with FMAGs, as well as implementation of an effective expired date and times for those FMAGs. And I think I'll be brave. I'll speak freely. The involvement from the financial incident business state side is critical to make sure that we're implementing this in a way that they want it to be implemented. So I put it on the plan, but without their engagement, I'm reluctant to be the one frankly holding the bag on how we move forward on this, because I don't want to do anything without. So I've asked Keith for some representatives, and then I think BJ, between you and Don Koppel maybe, and then of course Cal Fire, I think they threw some folks to us at a meeting last fall that we could talk about. But if this is something we need to pursue, I am not the SME, and I'm certainly happy to facilitate the calls, but there are some downstream impacts for our systems. What do they show? Where do they show it? What's the default? Those kinds of questions that we would need to work through as well.
I think if anything is going to go and be tied to FMAGs as an integration element, I don't think there's any way to get there before 11 or even 12. Just because there's 50 different agencies that manage the FMAGs with FEMA.
Beautiful. I mean, not beautiful, but I appreciate that perspective, because I think you're right.
Yeah, so I think if the first element is there where at least that state financial system code is being able to be exchanged to the systems that want to display it, great. But I think that second element probably maybe with the advent of the new NFERS and some of those other things, there may be conversations that can be had, but to be honest, I don't see any strong, and Keith, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
He stepped out.
It's all you.
I see that element as being a very labor intensive grassroots effort in order to get that coordinated to the point where systems could be automated to support.
Yeah, talk to him about it, because we did have that discussion, especially with that Max. Some of the disaster response.
It was nearest you did. Okay. Yep. And then,
Kara, just real quick, I mean, this has come up even in the legacy system. You know, the states wanted, some states wanted to see that it was an FMEG from this time to this time. After this time, you couldn't use it anymore. And we couldn't, it was like there was really no way to get the dates in there in the legacy system. So I mean, this has been coming around for a bit.
you know, I agree with you, and that's, I think, part of the dates, right? The effective and expiration, which I think is key. But I do actually 100% agree with BJ that this is not a quick conversation that we can tap in, and I think definitely we'll put that. I guess I'll maybe work with you, BJ, and then I think Tim's got something to say too.
I would offer one other thing there as we're talking, you know, part of the process is going to be look at how are all of the other agreements handled. Because that's really what an FMAG is an agreement, right? It has a start date and end date and then associated financial coding. So whatever systems are built with that in there, that's really what should be templated out so that other folks aren't having to recreate the wheel if we're going to capture that data based off of what Gina said. And I don't disagree with what she said. So
yeah. Okay, very good.
I'm done.
Okay, go ahead, Tim.
I concur with assessment of much like the frequency catalog conversation. If we ever hope to get it done, we need to start steps on the ball rather than let it go down the road.
And that's fair, and that's completely fair. So, we'll put it on our backlog as far as a conversation. I think the business is the business to have. I think it's always helpful, at least for me, for my own awareness, to be a fly on the wall and get to listen to those conversations and as they move forward. And so maybe what we'll do is we'll have some offline conversations, BJ, maybe some recommendations, thoughts, contacts, information. Same with Keith, same with Tim. I think Don Topple probably has some insights here too.
Yeah.
But we can visit with and go forward. So we won't delete it, but we will put it, not on this business plan as far as implementation, but it's something that's in the works for subsequent years.
Just the mini, or like, would you still do that first bullet with that single code?
It's in there.
Okay.
It's done. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you should separate those.
Yeah.
And
We
make
have
that
this phase
FMAG.
two, so we were sort of like phase one was the state financial code, state two, but you're probably right, separate it out to truly the FMAG conversation.
Yeah,
That makes
because
sense for
because then you get to take credit for what you've accomplished and you don't have to keep dragging it along, but this is really an involved conversation.
Yeah, this is my performance appraisal right here. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, looking at the time, it's 11:54. Want to finish our last medium before we go to low for lunch? Thumbs up on futuring. Thumbs up on futuring this one. There you go. And thumbs up on going ahead and tackling active and inactive capabilities. This might be a longer conversation. Julie, should we wait till after lunch?
Yeah.
Lunch is scheduled to be at 12:45, so we got plenty of time.
Oh, our people were asking to do lunch at 11, so.
Yeah, I think we should do it at 12.
Yeah.
and then-
We might need a little extra time since it's not.
What? Yeah,
So
I think we should do lunch now because I don't want to rush this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a wise choice. So, we've been doing an hour and 15. Elise was saying we might need a little extra time with being noon on the dot.
I've been going out to lunch.
I think it's been okay.
I think it's been okay too. So we'll,
1:15.
1:15.
See ya. Yeah, split the difference.
Thank you. All right, everybody, we'll see you back here at 1:15.